My name is Alyssa. I've been playing the game for 7 years now. Started playing in Portland, lived in Portland my whole life. It's my normal scene. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
I'm Heather. I've been playing for like 5 years now, and I'm from Portland as well. And I started playing because I worked at Ground Control.
I'm Tressa. I have been playing for about 5 years. I started playing in Seattle. I recently moved to Portland, and I started playing because I played Pinball League, and then it was there. So
Yeah, the
that happened.
pinball crowd and the Killer Queen crowd has just slowly been merging together. I think we have like 10 players now who are on the Pinball League. So, competitive sports. A lot of people started playing from playing games like Smash Bros, other competitive gaming. So it's still, even though we're here for a Killer Queen strategy and camaraderie in the 5v5 arcade community, a lot of it's very community-based, but we tend to pick up a lot of fighting game people. So, yeah, we will get into it. Killer Queen, 5 players playing against 5 players. The first team to win one of the 3 objectives wins. So it's a lot of talking to your teammates. It's really important that you get along, that you communicate clearly, that you know what you're doing. You hope your team knows what you're doing. Really exciting stuff. Community is sort of the number one thing. The creators of the game, Nick and Josh Debonis, They live in Brooklyn. They started making the game there. It started as a field game. They were tasked with putting something fun together to get kids outside and play and hang out and have fresh air. So they created this fun, I think it's like 6 players on each team. I could be wrong about that, but you're running around, you've got to grab a ball that's like a berry, and then you can pick up a sword. The queens wear crowns, so you know who's a queen. And then there's buckets at the other end of the field. The photo on the you were right there is us playing at Portland's very first big tournament a few years ago, several years ago at this point. Just people running around and having a good time. They worked, Nick and Josh worked at the New York University Gaming Center, and that's where they started to put their dream for a game into motion. Very Joust inspired, as I'm sure many of you noticed. Using classic pixel work in order to make a game that would still bring community into the arcade. 5v5, it was really important to them that you are huddled close to each other. It's intentional that you're having to stand next to people who might be strangers, might be your friends, talking, having a really good time. When I started playing 7 years ago, it was right around when I came to my first Retro Gaming Expo, and KQ10, Killer Queen 10, was a tournament being hosted in Chicago. We had Portland, New York City, and Chicago were the only 3 cities that had Killer Queen at that time, and they still managed to get this huge following of people. Sometimes some of those people were meeting for the first time when they were at that tournament, and Portland pulled through and won. No one was expecting us to win, but we did, and here's Neil taking the prize as the winning queen. It's really exciting stuff. I don't remember the first time I played Killer Queen. I don't know how many of you do. It could have been KQV, hopefully at Ground Control. I've had a lot of fun nights there. But I do remember what made me stay. I wanted to hear your guys' stories. What made you stay? Was it strategy, community, both?
Yeah, I got into it because I was the bartender at Ground Control, and one of my friends who also worked there he was kind of the scene dad at the time, and he kept trying to get me to get into it. Like, I would play it, but I just was like, it's fine. And then I went to school for filmmaking, and I made a little documentary about how there's so many women playing the game, because that was something I started to notice, was like, we just have so many women that play this game in a way that I didn't really notice in any other game. So I wanted to like kind of explore that, and I realized like, it's because we are in person and you have to be standing next to someone, you have to get along with them, so you can't be a jerk.
People try to be really supportive.
Yeah, so it's just like such a nice, supportive community, and like the more time I spent just like talking to everyone one-on-one and doing these interviews, I just started being like, I just want to like hang out with these people all the time. Like, I wasn't really a gamer, but I wanted to play this game just to hang out with everyone all the time, and that's what kept me around.
I like doing video games, but there's a different air about like being around people. So being able to be in person, and I think this is the same thing for me with pinball too. It's like being able to be around people that you're competing with. You have that extra energy, and getting to meet people and just being able to like have the camaraderie to hang out and play competitively, and that's why I stayed. And it was really fun to have like people visit Seattle from New York, from Chicago, and you're like, oh, instant friend. You have something to talk about, and you have something to compete with each other on a different level than you would with anybody else. So, yeah.
Traveling the country and having like automatic friends to stay with is like,
Oh, it's so nice. Yeah, it's great. You don't have to pay for hotels half the time. So for me, I remember playing one night, a very, very, very long time ago. I blocked it out of my memory because these guys were like, you can run the snail, put the berry in the hole, or you kill the queen, and you kill the queen by doing this. They told me everything about the game in like a 5-minute window, and I was like, what do you want me to do though? And they were like, figure it out. And I was like, how do I figure it out? Like, there's a lot of stuff to look at. It's very overwhelming. So one day I went to ground control, and this guy, Scott, the fabulous Sailor Mars there, Scott tapped me on the shoulder and said, hey, we just would love it if we had more people to play the game. We'll cover a few of your games. And here's how you run berries. It's really easy. Give it a go. And then if you want to learn more about the game, we'll go from there. And it was really nice, really supportive, telling me how I was doing such a great job. And then there was a tournament a week later. I was nervous to go, but there was free drinks. So I did go. And I remember I almost didn't go, but I'm really glad that I did, because I started hanging out at the arcade all the time, playing fun teams together. As you can tell, Stinger Scouts was our Bumble Bash 1, the first national championship team we played together. We'd just hang out, go to the arcade, and we wouldn't even play Killer Queen sometimes. We were playing Rock Band with some of the bees over there, and it just kept growing from there, going to other bars together, celebrating holidays together. Pretty much every Halloween I've been with these guys. And it's just people making friends, going across the country, making best friends. People started moving across the country. People have been falling in love. We've had several Killer Queen weddings, buying homes, looking at you. Tressa met her husband Gab in Seattle playing Killer Queen. And yeah, definitely not the only love story involved there, but it's really exciting. I've performed 2 weddings for people who started playing Killer Queen together. So it's not a cult, but we do hang out a lot, and we are ingrained in each other's lives, which is pretty great. That said, there is an actual game involved. It's not just taking our time to hang out. That's 3 days a week for me. Basics. Most of you probably know this. Fill the hive with the berries, put the snail in the net, or kill the queen 3 times. You can tell how many lives the queen has from the number of eggs. Once you're out of eggs, if you die again, game over. Forming, we've got speed warriors if you form in the lightning gate. The queen is the big pretty one. Yeah, you guys are probably all familiar with this by now. Here's night map. I was expecting to maybe talk to people who'd never played at all before, so I was gonna say, oh, Blue Stripes is landing on the queen, but he's not gonna bump her, but she's in trouble because Gold Queen's diving through the rat. But depending on how many times you played, you can probably get a relative idea of the game state. It just started. Right gate's not even tagged yet, so how to form, once again, pretty basic overview. It's the queen's job to tag the gates. I'll point that out. So anytime the queen flies over it, that will claim the gate, with some exceptions. I've got a cute slide to show you later on. By 2019, we had Bumble Bash 4, and there was over 250 contestants from all across the country. I don't even know how many cities have this game. I think it's like 80 cities have the game. I stopped keeping track after North Carolina got it. yeah, just everyone there having a really great time. Some of these people have been playing since 2013 when New York got it, which is just absolutely insane. We're coming on almost 10 years of this game, and for people who've been there for the whole time, that's really special. I mean, that's like going to high school and college with somebody. You've got to really like people to be hanging around them that long. So what do you do when you have 250 nerds who are obsessed with the game? You mess around with it. And this is a big part of how Killer Queen became what it is now. There's things about the game that the developers had no idea were part of the game when they started. And some of that is just Blue Queen. I was texting and I wasn't looking, and someone tagged the gate without killing me, and I looked up and it was gold. So I just was walking back and forth. And so now we know the exact size of the hitbox for the gate, so you know exactly where to touch it if you want to tag it. You don't have to land on the ground to tag it, which can be really useful if you're trying to fly more effectively throughout the zone. The middle GIF here is just some workers messing around. I don't have an explanation for why gold stripes can get into the gate. Someone else in the community might. But these are the kinds of things that when we find these moments, we can spend an hour talking about them in Discord. Because of that, we've just learned so much about the game, and that all contributes to strategy. This last slide with the snail going in, I just call this hubris. If all 5 characters are in the panel frame when the game ends, you get a family portrait. And the Gold Queen knew exactly the right time to go get a team wipe and just took all of the gold team out, or all of the blue team out. And that's like precious snail seconds. Clearing the whole team there, they're gonna get that snail back at least past like the end of that ledge, the ledge. So yeah, blue team almost won, and they lost their chance there. So yeah, you cannot be too overly confident when you play the game.
That's why most people think going for the family portrait is a little rude.
Yeah, yeah. It's a big risk to take in tournaments. This is the single most valuable section of the game that I've ever found, because this has pretty much every single piece of basic tech. If you want to get good at the game, you want to be successfully carrying out several things that you're seeing here. But do you guys want to talk about any of them? Do you want to talk about sticking, scraping, bumping? Bumping. What are you Tressa, you gotta talk about bumping.
So, being at these, since you have 5 different players, each player ends up being a different role to at least start the game. I am typically someone who is riding the snail, and even though we call like speed or getting a warrior upgrades, you have so much power as a drone. As you can see here, they save their warrior. The blue drone saves their blue warrior a few times by bumping the gold warrior. Or maybe that slipped. Yeah. But yeah, and when you jump off of the snail, there's just so many micro movements that you can do by just doing one little hit, and you don't necessarily need to have an upgrade to do them. And then you can see like the berry.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the berry.
So Gold Stripes here does an insane job. I gotta say, it's probably a little bit lucky that they go over the blue worker, because there's just enough space there, and they really jumped off at exactly the right time to glide over the blue worker's head. But then blue worker gets killed, and the berry flies in between those 2 warriors, and that's dangerous. If there's a berry between 2 players, we learned after doing it time and time again, you just have to stop moving the stick. If a berry's in your way and you run into it, the berry curves, the physics curves, and you can see it happening in the berry bonus map. You can walk across the berry and watch it turn. It's really fun. So they stop moving. Because the 2 warriors both stop moving, neither of them dies. Usually if a berry is in the way, it's pretty likely that someone's going to die. So excellent work from that. Both workers do a really good job, but Gold Stripes really nails it. The other thing that happens is when Blue Checks comes into the tunnel here, Gold Stripes goes for the kill, but another blue team player comes into the tunnel. That's called a pinch. This is where the teamwork really shines through, because you want to be keeping an eye on your teammates. You want to go help them out. So Blue Abs, depending on what's going on in the rest of the map, Blue Abs did the right thing going in there for the pinch. But they weren't looking out for the Gold Queen. Gold Queen does exactly the same thing, comes out, saves the warrior and the worker, and they continue riding the snail. It's just a really action-packed sequence there, so hopefully that gave some good insight for everybody. These two are just higher level execution plays for pretty much everything you see there. The night map there, Gold Skulls, coming in for just a really spicy kill. That's called a stinch. It's when you stick to the ceiling. We're happy if you ask anyone who's playing at the tournament how to stick, we'll teach you. It's a little complicated to show on the screen here, but essentially the game doesn't really register you going up all the way. So you picture the parabola of your flight, and when it starts to curve in, the game gets confused. And because it's Joust, you've got to be higher than the other player to kill them. You can't be higher than another player when you're on the ceiling. So that's why you bump on the ceiling. Super helpful. But yeah, that stinch play, super spicy, it's high level. I would love to say that I'm a great player, but I can't do it. I don't know why I can't do it. I'm just really bad at it. So every time I get it, I scream. Yeah. I think you've had a few stinches.
Yeah. Usually when I've done it, it's been like an accident, a happy accident. Because that's the thing, for me, I have like arthritis and like a little bit of nerve damage in my right hand. And there's a couple techniques to tapping in this game where there's some people that single tap, some double tap, and some triple tap. And like the triple tapping is like the easiest way to like stick to the ceiling and get a stinch. I cannot do it. One of my fingers will go numb and I can't do it. So I'm usually just single tapping and like hoping for the best. And anytime I've done it, it's just been like, whoa, miracle.
I also single tap, but that's because I like to do my nails, and to double tap, it's pretty aggressive on the nails. So you can still be a really good player. One of the top queens, Dylan Lee, is a single tapper. So single tapping is not bad. It's just sometimes some of the tech is a little bit harder.
Just takes more practice. It took me a really long time to figure out how to do certain things, but
just
you
practice
can get there
3 nights a week. It's not that hard. That said, you don't have to practice 3 times a week to be good at the game. So that's a lot of the work we've done is just getting into the community. Just here's like a nice sweet little picture of Portland coming back from the pandemic. Still going strong. We had Discord servers, we were still playing games together. Some people were playing Killer Queen Black, but I played a lot of Fall Guys with Killer Queen people. We would have happy hours. So when the first tournament was upon us, we managed to get some people from Seattle, still had a really good time, really enjoyed it. And now here we are today. So again, the community part is my favorite part about the game. I'm happy to keep talking about strategy. This presentation was put together really for people who didn't necessarily know what they were doing, so I might go back to a map. I might take questions if anyone has questions. But I just wanted to close out on one of my favorite Killer Queen memories. Was when the game was very new. We had a house party because we had some people visiting from Charlotte. When they first got their game, they just wanted to come say hi and play the game with people who were super into it. And there's Malort, Jepson's Malort. Has anyone had that?
I'm sorry.
It is like the Killer Queen community drink. And so we had a bottle in Portland, even though it's hard to, you've got to sneak it over here from Chicago. And it's sort of like an initiate thing. It's very much one of those, oh, here, take this shot with me. It's been described as the bottom of a dirty boot. It's pretty much like if you can think of the most unpleasant thing that you can think of and then make it burn, that's probably what it tastes like. So we took shots with these players from Charlotte, but we ran out of shot glasses, so we were doing them out of solo cup bowls. And you've got your progression pick: cheers, drinking, and regret. But it's just such a fun way to bring everyone together, And so the joke, it's not a cult, but have the Malort. We're happy to share some with you if we have it on hand. That said, that's pretty much everything that I have for you. Anybody, do you have anything you want to add? Do we want to talk more about strategy, or does anyone have questions?
Yeah, 2 slides back, the right half of the image, is that just the queen tapping jump down quickly because the
Yes.
goes above her feet?
Yeah, good catch. So the queen is the only player who can dive. I forgot to mention that. But when you tap fast enough, you can dive and ascend. It's called a drip. And I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure. No one contested me on this the last time I brought it up. The hitbox for the queen is the same size as the warrior hitbox, but her sprite's taller. So her head, the way that the hitbox adjusts when she dives is it just changes the middle line of the hitbox a little bit. So that's why queens dive a lot when they're near like other warriors, and it's sort of a way to try and be tricky and evade. And so blue queen almost gets got by these gold warriors. Like she's in a pinch there. The players who are attacking her have columns, so when you're trying to kill someone, you want to picture a column down. If you can land on them in that column, they're dead. Gold team feels really confident about that, but blue abs, as a speed warrior, super valuable and just sneaks under and gets the double kill. And so that whole exchange happens because the queens are both being really slippery and because warriors are very clever.
Okay, so the blue speed warrior, who kills the gold queen?
Yeah, blue speed warrior got both of those kills. I'm the gold queen there. I had that kill, and when the kill sound initiated, I was like, ha ha ha, I got Dylan. no, I didn't. And the one fun thing about the game is in order to make the highest level plays, you don't actually look at yourself most of the time because you have to have map awareness. You've got to be keeping an eye on everything that's going on in the game. You've got to be aware that the warriors are there. And so something simple like blue abs just stopping in between that little tunnel area long enough that I stopped remembering he had speed. And even then, to loop around like that, it's pretty gutsy. But when you're a speed warrior, you can get away with a lot of those arching plays. Arcing? I can't remember if it's arc or arch. Thank you. So that whole exchange is relatively high level. From the gold play there is pretty standard. You want to have the columns. You want to fall in on players while you're killing them, and you want to do it with a team member as often as you can. It's really nice to make hero plays on your own. Really, everything should be done as a team.
Competitively, would you say the speed warrior is worth it?
Yeah, so speed warrior, because it's a time investment, you just have to be able to stay alive. The easy thing about Killer Queen is if you just don't die, you win everything. So it's a matter of understanding how long you can survive. A good speed warrior, no one should ever die in the game. But if you know that when you get up, you are going to either, there's two goals. If you can do both, that's great. Zoning. You don't have to get kills, but if you keep other players from moving around on the map, that's still effective. And as a speed warrior, you're getting everywhere as fast as you can. So it just means you're covering more space. It means that your columns are a little bit bigger. But also if you can get kills. If you can form speed warrior and get 2 kills out of it, that's a really good exchange. We track stats now. I count my own stats sometimes if I don't see the stats that I want. And a 1-for-1 kill rate on warrior I've seen is actually pretty good. It doesn't feel like that, but it is. So if you're either doing one or both of those things ideally, then speed's worth it. But if you're going to die every 30 seconds, it's not worth it, and you just gotta keep practicing it. Those are good questions.
Yeah, the speed takes a little bit more control, I would say. So that's the big thing with it.
You just keep going.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest thing. When you're fast, you just have so much momentum. You just keep going.
Yeah. I've definitely had it happen where, like, when you get a kill, you just ricochet off their head sometimes in a way that you might not expect. So that's the tough part.
Kind of entertaining them. And as a speed worker, yesterday I was a speed worker, and I was ledge guarding by bouncing out people as they came into the night hive, and they just fly. You bump them because you've got more momentum, physics. You just boop them like halfway across the map. Yeah, it's not really halfway across the map. Yeah.
Sorry, can you explain a little more about how the bumping works? Like, I'm not really getting why you don't just die when.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about that? Don't look so.
To be honest, I don't know a lot about the physics. I just play the game. And And if it works, it works. And I just go off of feel. But if you hit there's like a certain part of the box that if you hit it, you just kind of bump them. You're not above or below them quite enough for you to die or them to die. So you hit them, they bump away. Alyssa, I know you know more about physics, so.
So, because again, you've got to be facing the player and above them when you kill them, and that works for workers too. So I view the hitbox as a quadrant, and that's true for everybody. So if the worker, well, here the bump is working because the worker's also sticking. I should start with that. So even though they're just a worker, they're still, the warrior's not above them. They're hitting halfway at the hitbox. So he's not above the worker. It's still something that you can do. You can bounce warriors in the game, but you have to be really careful. When you do enter their kill zone for the hitbox, it will kill you, but you can land on their heads. It's really fun. And you can bounce off of them. I've seen people run berries by landing on a warrior and jumping off their heads.
Yeah,
it's really hard to do.
On a night map, I've jumped past 2 speed warriors on their heads.
Nice. It's like you're playing most extreme elimination.
Yeah. My favorite thing to do is like if you can get directly on top of the queen's head as a little drone, sometimes you can just stay there and you can just keep bouncing on her head and she cannot go anywhere.
And if she's dropping taps, she's going down. Yeah, it's great. Hate it as a queen, really. Does that help a little bit?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, and it is the kind of thing like with Tressa, if you just keep trying, some people count their taps, they know all of the little physics mechanics, but you get the feel of it. A lot of the game I play by feel, again, because I single tap. So the same thing with the workers. And that's exactly what's going on with Gold Stripes. They've got a really good read on it. So, anything else? Yeah?
Never played. I'm gonna play.
Great.
What's the, I guess, average game length and what's the most common win condition in your experience?
Most common is military. Part of that is because berries and snail are used as pressure for the queen. So if the snail is in the enemy basket, the queen's got to rush to clear it out, because if you're gonna lose by the snail, it's worth risking your life. So there's that kind of pressure. The other thing is everybody is a tryhard and just likes to kill. So you get a lot of people just focusing on the queen. That's probably going to be a lot of that. The game length is harder. When I am scheduling, I allot 5 minutes per game. Most games are probably 3 minutes, but there have been, I know for sure there's been an 18-minute game in a tournament, and I want to say there's been a 30-minute game in a tournament.
I played an over 20-minute game. It went into famine twice. So that's when you run out of berries. It used to be like you wouldn't get them back, but now you have 90 seconds of there being no berries, and then they come back. So we had that 90 seconds, and we ran out of berries again, and did it again. Yeah. So it can be very long, but most of them are not like that.
And there's some players, some teams that are prone to hitting famine. There's some queens who play really safely, and their warriors are, everyone's making a lot of kills on each other, and so some queens, I just know when I play against Amandra or Brian Lee, I'm probably going to famine, especially on night map. Brian Lee. So those games can just be really long. There's also situations on night map, I think on dusk as well. You can't see it here. I'm going to use this as an example. So in the hive, there's those breaks between the middle pillar. Those are so berries can go through. It's really fun to get a kick in through there. But what can happen if you're not careful, the workers can run under there. They can't run under there. Why did I know how to play the game. So a berry can land just in the middle, and the workers can't reach the berry when it's there. So if that happens, that's what we call a classic famine, and that goes back to if you run out of berries, the game doesn't process, it doesn't know that a berry is stuck there, so it can just go indefinitely, and it's really exhausting, because if you have stubborn queens, they're not going to die, they're not going to take the risk, or maybe they're just going to try and get the snail in, but with 3 workers eating the snail over and over and over again, that's like a 5-minute snail ride. So sometimes I say it's not worth it and I just die. Not in a tournament, of course, but yeah, of course. Do you have a question?
Yeah, we've never played before. We just
Welcome.
saw it for the first time yesterday when we were walking around. And one of the things that I saw, I guess it's on the map where the waterfalls are. I don't know which one that was. I'm sorry.
Night map.
Yeah, I think it was that one. We saw a queen bounce a berry on her head up and then back in to go into
Nice.
the hive. And I just kind of was like, I mean, I love competitive game, and I know
Mm-hmm.
effort that would take.
Yes.
How often is that strategy actually used? Because that was a lot of work.
Well, if you're Jess all the time.
There's people who practice that kind of thing.
There's certain people in the game, because we do get super nerdy about this and talk for an hour about where the hitbox of the gate is. There is also that about berries. So some people know exactly where, especially on this map, because it is so open and there's so many wraps with the waterfalls or vertical wraps. And you have, people will know if you kick a berry from this spot, it will land here, or this will be the trajectory of it. So there's this fun play of, let's try to kick a berry in, or if you have all of these free berries around, I call them free berries because they're not stuck to a pile. They are mobile, they're more like a soccer ball than they are you're picking it up and taking it back. But it's really fun to like see where you can kick that, and there are some specific players who can do that.
Watch Blue Queen here. This is one of the coolest things I've ever seen. Watch that berry. and another berry got taken out at the last second. I almost put that in the slide. Good catch. Yeah. I know people who will practice kicking berries from the bottom of Dusk Map for like an hour, just from time to time, just because.
It's like a fun bonus in
Yeah.
the game. It's like not necessary, but if you can also do that.
Yeah, and there is, I don't know if you saw, there's a bonus map that's just one big berry, and that's pretty much that on a bigger scale. So the berry is huge. It's the same hive size roughly, and it takes up most of the hive. So you've got to fly around, and everyone's always a warrior, and it's just Rocket League.
Just kicking that one berry in.
Yeah, I call it, some people call it meatball map. But you had another question?
How important is it in competitive play for gate control to like lock out all of this?
It's pretty big. If you wipe the team, you want to work on the lockout, because if they don't have warriors, unless they're rushing berries, which is a way that you can sort of get out of a gate lock situation, but it feels really good. So if they're wiped, you're going to gate control. If you have your full team, that's going to mean keeping a warrior, like a speed warrior, between two gates if you can, and another warrior stationed at a gate, killing all the workers as they're running around. And if you can have a lockout for like 30 seconds, you're running the snail like 2/3 of the way there. Or if your hive is clear, it's free, and it can be pretty difficult.
I will say there's a difference between doing like a warrior gate lockout versus like a full lockout. A lot of queens will tag all of the winged gates, but leave the speed gates, and that can drastically change your full lockout. The speed gates they'll have like 4 speed run, like little bears running around. And if they get 1 speed warrior up, that's way more valuable than just having 1 vanilla warrior.
Yeah, when a speed warrior comes up, I usually abandon the lockout, unless we can kill him right away.
Oh, and one more thing I would say about that is if you look, if you're going to watch our tournament games, we have the Hive Mind overlay, and you'll notice that one of the things at the end, it says the gate control percentage. So each
Yeah.
team, how often they tagged the gates, basically.
Mhm.
And if you look, like, usually it's whoever spent the most time having gates wins the game.
It happens that way a lot. I think someone looked at the statistics for that recently, and it was not quite, correlation does not equal causation. So it is most often, I think, that whoever has the most gate control wins the game, but it wasn't enough to be statistically significant. I can't remember. It is huge, but there's also a difference between having the gates and your warriors being able to use them, because it doesn't matter if you have a gate if a speed warrior is sitting there killing everyone before it gets to the gate.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting to look at. Is like after a game, you can look at all the statistics and like the full picture.
Thank you,
'Cause,
Abby.
yeah, if one person tagged the gates the whole time, but the other team just ran berries and ran the snail, you can kind of, it's reflected and you'll kind of see.
Well,
Yeah.
that's one of the things too, is like, my stats are so bad. But that's because I'm a drone. So as a little bear, there's less things that are tagged in the game to go to stats. So my biggest stat is how many times I die. But even that can be very effective for the game. Like, I'm dying either feeding snail or going for bumps to like get a kill on a warrior.
Yeah. As for stats, we have, I used to count them by hand. I would watch our tournaments 10 times. I would count the stat for every player in our tournament because I wanted to know who was the best berry runner. I wanted to know who's getting the most kills. And it took hours. I'm glad it was a smaller community back then, fortunately. But now we have an awesome setup. There's someone named Abby who created Hive Mind. So if you want any, you can use an amiibo, you can use any card, like a bus pass with an RFID chip in it, you can track your stats. So that does most of it for us now. And so you get to look at it at the end of every game, and it's pretty helpful. I've had another point, but I forget. I was just thinking about you dying on the snail a lot.
Oh yeah, you won an award for that at a
I
tournament.
did.
Yeah.
And then I lost the award. So
Oh, no.
it was most generous, and then I lost the award.
You got eaten the most times? You got eaten the most times?
I just died the most. It was something ridiculous, like 100 times.
Oh, golly. Boy, howdy. It's all fun stuff. Yeah. We try hard. Yeah.
How competitively is it advantage, or is there an advantage to pressuring snail from goat? Like one person always gets on snail and you start pushing, or is that less often and more advantage?
It really depends on your team. The open is something that every team discusses, and if you biff your open, then that could cost you the entire game. And most of the time, doing like a bump and denying one of their warriors getting up is worth it to not having that few seconds on snail. Or if you go full military on a on a map like day map, you have so much time on the snail where it's very even. That entire tunnel, do we have a day map?
Sorry.
That entire tunnel at the bottom of the screen is basically neutral. It's different on a dusk map or a night map because once you get off of the rope on a night map, then it's now in your court. So in that case, I would go straight to snail versus on a night map or on the day map, you can have more time.
Yeah, and about opens, I like bumping for the open because it's fun to be a nuisance and it's fun to annoy your team, the other team. Day map has a lot of different variations depending on your team's strengths and the other team's strengths. Sometimes I don't care if they get their team up, and I'd rather have the early snail lead because I feel confident I can kill their warriors out of the open. But if they have some really strong warriors, we might not want to start the snail right away. We might really prioritize getting all of our teammates up. There's on day map, my favorite thing to do as a worker, I haven't done it in a tournament because I haven't been a worker in a tournament in 5 years. But you can send, when the game countdown starts, there's that line that keeps you from going around the rest of the map. If you wait, I have a point? Yes. If you wait right here, and then the line disappears, you start to fall, you can cut straight across. And if they don't send someone to middle, or if you have extra help in the middle, you can keep running here, and you can, oopsies, you can disrupt their safe speed warrior here. And that's the gate that typically the team counts on getting a warrior up there no problem, because to disrupt it really does take resources. Like the queen can go try and disrupt it, but then you lose your safe gate. You know, it's a little bit of like rock, paper, scissors here, but bumping there is really fun. it kind of annoys them. So yeah, lots of things to do with bumping, but sometimes you just want the snail progress. And that's, most of the time, I don't think people go straight to the snail these days. I don't know. I'm not looking at the snail anymore. No, okay.
No. They go for the middle gate bump, especially on this map. They'll go for middle gate bump and then go to snail is the most typical open for a drone.
Some teams send 2 people to bump there. So on day map, it's relatively common to go full mill or stingers out, or however you want to say it. Everyone forms. And the way that you do that, you have one person fall, form safe here. Another person falls and grabs a berry here, jumps up to middle. A second person comes to middle just to bounce them, grabs this berry, goes up to speed. And by then, the first speed warrior has come here and already formed speed. And then you just get flexible from there. It's a time investment. But then your whole team is up. And if they're running the snail, that's okay, because like Tressa said, if it's still under the tunnel, you're okay. You've got a lot of time. As soon as it gets out of the tunnel is when I say, I don't care, someone please die. Well, depending on if we can bring it back. Sometimes it's still really useful to have your full team up. So, yeah, all good questions.
Would it be possible to like show a video of an open or something like that?
Yeah.
Say what you guys think about it?
Yeah, let's see. I'm probably going to go find a random one. Where should I go?
GDC.
Yeah,
Most recent.
okay.
Maybe.
Oh, we only have 2 minutes.
Yeah.
We're going to go really fast.
I retract my question.
We'll see if we can come up with something. We just had, it might already be on YouTube. Let's just go to one, just a random. Is there, there's going to be an ad, isn't there?
No.
Oh, good. I was gonna look directly at Josh and say, why do you have ads on your Twitch? The internet might not be good enough. But
Does
that
anybody
is a
have
good
any
question.
other questions while we wait? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I was wondering, so there's like different ways to play. Like you can play on the arcade machine. There's a Steam version, right? What is the preferred thing that you guys play on?
We generally play on arcade. Killer Queen Black, the Steam version, is much newer, and it's based off of the arcade version, but it has a few different aspects to it. So like you have an extra button for attacking, and there's different upgrades that you can do. I don't play Killer Queen Black. I tried it, and the games are just so fast. One of the things that I love about playing the game is that you can, I tell everybody, I'm a drone, I tell everybody what's going on the map, and there's not enough time to yell at your team in Black. It's a lot faster.
This might be a standard opener. Oh, there's sound. Surprise. Sorry, I hope that's okay. This might be a standard opener. That's not standard. So that's a fun opener. That's when you get 2 queens who like to flirt. Oh, that's Daphne and Jess. I love this. So sometimes I call it flirting. People call it flirting. I would like to think I coined flirting. I don't know that I did, but it's essentially when you do something that's a little gutsy, a little silly, and you just try to like out silly the other person. Typically, the queens both just stay at the top and bounce, and it's really boring. But it's kind of fun to see if you can dive under. You can either cut across to their gate, or you can dive under just to hold the gate, stop their workers, and you can like dance with the other queen. Yeah, that's not a good opener. But it's really amusing. So that puts us at time. I hope y'all enjoyed that. Thanks for coming to our first panel. It was fun.
Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and to the right are the playlist of the Portland Retro 2022 and some other interesting videos. Thank you.